What's up, everybody? Anthony here with Empire Music, empiremusic.com. Showing off a really cool, and I think this is the first time I've ever played one, Fender Custom Shop 66 P-Bass. This particular one is absolutely gorgeous. Super faded aged Lake Placid blue. I'm a big Lake Placid blue fan. I love it with a red torque guard. I think it's really, really cool with this white guard on it too, especially in like that faded and the aging kind of process, so it lightens up that deep Lake Placid blue a little bit. It's really, really something else. I was like, my jaw kind of hit the floor when I opened the box up. And the details on the relicing on this one are subtle, but very, very beautiful. So this is in Journeyman Relic. If you're not familiar with how the relicing packages work with Fender Custom Shop, so NOS would be untouched, brand new. Then there's one called Closet Classic, which is basically like an untouched, it's basically NOS without all the shine on it. It's almost like a little bit of a, lack of a better term, like matted down kind of nitro on there. Then we get into Journeyman Relic, which this is, then Straight Relic, and then Heavy Relic, and then Super Heavy Relic, and then once we get into the master built stuff, you can get into like the ultra relic stuff. I think that's everything. So the nice thing about Journeyman Relic is it doesn't have any of the major finish wearing away on it, but if you can kind of see in the details there, and I'll provide links in the YouTube description to this, you see some little bumps and bruises, some really cool finish checking on these darker finishes. Not that this is dark, but on the things like the blues and black and those finishes, you don't see the checking quite as much, which I like. I like it the way it appears on like Olympic white and things. But there's a subtlety to this stuff that hits on the blue finishes. But if you notice, like, you can kind of see in the horn here, and again, click the links in the description to kind of get into it. You see this like little light wearing on the blue finish, which is just, when you're looking down playing it, and I didn't notice that until I got into this light, because I featured this bass in one of our New This Week videos that Brent and I shoot, that you get in your inbox on Monday mornings. If you don't subscribe to our, it's a good time to mention that, if you don't subscribe to our email list, there's also a link to that below in the description, or I'll make sure there is when I post this on YouTube. Feel free to click on that and subscribe to our email blasts, which aren't many. We usually send out some used gear on Friday and some new gear on Monday mornings, and occasionally some other promotions and store events and stuff like that. But if you don't do that, please do so. Please subscribe to the channel while you're at that too. Greatly appreciate your viewership nonetheless, however you find us. So I just love the way that those details are in the Fender Custom Shop and in the relicing process. I know there's some relicing haters out there. I know there's some relicing lovers out there. I'm kind of both ways on it. When I see something that I like, whether it's NOS or super heavy relic or anything in between, I just kind of gravitate towards it visually, but that's a personal preference. They make it multiple different ways to satisfy everybody out there, and we're sure happy to sell it to you if we have it or we can get it for you. So, and also as I'm looking down, you see up here on the neck, it's just these slight details I think are really cool. So spec-wise, it has a pickup in it that is probably I'm least familiar with. It's the 6570P pickup. I've done videos with this pickup, but I don't think I've ever done one, and maybe I'm just misremembering, or not remembering, I should say. But it was in the P-Bass specials from last year and the year before. It's all blurring together because post-COVID, all the years kind of got mixed up when we were getting stuff. But the P-Bass special had a P and a J pickup in it, and it had this pickup in there. And I always liked it. Very punchy. Doesn't offer the same compression or as much compression as we get out of like our Empire 58s and maybe like the 62 hand wound. But it offers a little more, there's a more kind of bell-like clarity to it that I find, which I really like. You pair that up with this rosewood board and it sounds very, very nice. I really, this bass is really something special here. I've really enjoyed playing it. And I don't have one with rosewood, so it's something like that is on my list for sure to kind of add into the collection. So 6570 hand wound pickup. Obviously, you know the P-Bass setup. It's dead simple, not a whole lot to show you. Volume and tone. 60s oval C neck on it. So a very familiar neck profile. You see that on tons of stuff. Even you see it over on the guitar side. I think, and this is what we put on our Empire 58 P bass, so it's very comfortable. I think it is right down the middle for a vintage neck profile, and 7 1/4 radius on the fretboard. So a little rounder than what we sometimes see in the 9 1/2. And I'll be honest, and I've said this so many times, if I didn't read that, I don't know that I would notice it. That stuff is somewhat lost on me. That's just me. That's not, that you might be very, very in tune with what's going on there. But until I get to like a 14, I really don't, and a really flat radius, I don't notice a big difference between 7 1/4, 9 1/2, even up to 12. That might be where I start feeling it a little, flatten out a little bit. And I don't mind any of them, say that. And it's 1 3/4 at the nut, so it's typical Fender vintage P-bass spec. Very, very cool. I really can't say it enough how much I just enjoy the look of this finish, and the bass is just very, very cool. And it's a beautiful piece of rosewood on there too. Fretwork is exceptional on this particular one. And so yeah, very cool to play. When I pulled it out of the box, I was very happy with it. So sonically, it's just a P bass. We kind of know what that is. It's my tagline for P basses. They're one-trick ponies, but they just do a really, really good trick. There is not any single musical environment that a P bass will not fit into. Seriously, I do not think it's possible. There might be other basses, like you might get into a situation where like an active bass is perfect for it, but if you put a P bass in there, it's not gonna be bad. As opposed to other things, like if there's a situation where that active electronics, which I love those types of basses, I own them, I play them all the time, I have tons of respect for that type of sound. But there's a situation where the P bass is the perfect sound and that just won't fit. If you know what I mean, like this can always be inserted into any musical situation, and I really think it's gonna be okay. Sonically, we're gonna start full volume, full tone. I do have some effects down here. I have the Earthquaker Devices Blooms, which I've said before has become an absolute staple on my pedal board, on my bass pedal board. I do have a guitar pedal board that does not have that, but you know what's on there is the Earthquaker Devices Westwood. I love their overdrive pedals. And the MXR Reverb, I have that set to plate, everything kind of about right at noon on that. I have the decay up just a little bit past there, maybe around 1 o'clock. So sonically, fingerstyle, full volume, full tone. All right, so pretty straightforward, but when I said earlier, there's that bell-like kind of clarity to it. I get that a lot out of a jazz bass, and I pull a little bit of that, obviously with the P character. But when you really let those open strings ring out, I hit an open A in there that really harmonically wasn't the coolest choice, but I was just thinking, I know an open A always, if there's one note that's gonna have that character, to me, it's that. And check this out. Open E. How full those sound as those open strings. You get all that, I always say this too, there's all that harmonic content to it there. And it's kind of like where that, I guess above the halfway point of the mid-range character. So like upper mid-range, but not fully like high mid-range. There's something different there with this bass than what I get out of the 62s and our Empire 58s, which I love those things, but this just does something different. This has a little more of a, I guess for lack of a better term, like a rock edge to it, which I like. Just play a little bit more. punch factor to it. It's just all like straight in your face. So I dig that. You notice when I dig into it, even with that rosewood board on there, there's still a whole lot of bite to it. And that's just, you know, that late 60s kind of voicing on there. Think about that's like the era that Fender was essentially, you know, transitioning into their 70s sound. They were bought by CBS. They were really moving more towards, I've always thought chronologically with when we think of vintage stuff, the music that the bass was, or the other instruments that the bass was fighting, you know, rock was getting louder, drummers were getting louder, guitar amps were getting louder. So, you know, you're never getting away from that P-bass character, but you're starting to tailor in really kind of your taste, tonally, what we can pull out of the P-basses. So let's roll some tone off on that. So we'll go about, see where halfway gets us. Been kind of digging that recently, especially like in some recording session stuff where I just don't want any top end kind of bite to it. On its own can be, I'll probably catch some flack out there for saying this, but a little bit bland, but in a mix, it certainly can be kind of cool. It's very smooth. That is really, really nice. Again, like I said, it's very smooth. That just kind of glides sonically there. That's awesome. Be awesome with an octave pedal. You can really get some cool bass synth sounds with that. I wish I had that set up here. Let's actually, this is have a little bit of that. Let's put a little overdrive on. Need some modulation on there. Some low pass stuff going on. Tone's all the way off on the bass. We're relying on the blooms to get a little bit of crunch on there. Then whatever top end's coming from that, turn that off. Very, very low passy kind of thing on it. Might not even hear that through your phone speakers or your computer speakers. Back with some overdrive, we'll add some bite to that. So we'll add the treble. Let's go treble or tone at 100 on that with the overdrive. Roll tone back a little bit, so we'll go like that 70% mark. Here's clean. Probably where I would end up playing this bass majority of the time. overdrive. What a great bass with overdrive. Really, that output of that pickup, like the bite and the character of that, the clarity really is feeding that overdrive pedal well. It makes me want to buy this bass very badly. Somebody else should. So let's leave that on. Let's get a little weird with the, not that weird, with the reverb pedal on there. So. Loving that sound with the overdrive on. And just a little reminder, full volume, full tone, clean. Nice, loud, punchy P bass on there. We add some overdrive though. Little tone back. So killer, love this thing. So Fender Custom Shop, 1966 P bass. This particular one is in, I think I'm saying this right, super faded aged Lake Placid blue. It's awesome. It's in stock now at the time of filming this. Hopefully by the time you're seeing this video, it's also in stock. And if you're interested, reach out to me personally. The email's anthony@empiremusic.com. Phone number of the shop is 412-343-5299. I'll put links below in the description too. Get to our mailing list, like I said earlier. Also to all of our Fender Custom Shop inventory. If you see something, feel free to reach out. Till then, well, until next time, we'll see you. Thanks.